How many of you have either used the phrase or heard somebody use the phrase, walk in your customer's shoes? I've used it as well for many, many years, but up until today, this morning to be precise, I had no idea what it meant. What am I talking about? As some of you may know, I do a lot of podcasts. I'm actually going to hit about 100 podcasts shortly. So, in some sense, I consider myself to be a reasonably experienced podcast host. But more importantly, there's some ground rules I use for my guests. And number one being, I never, ever share my questions beforehand. And that has always led to an honest and bi-directional and truly impactful dialogue, in my opinion. And based on the reactions I've got from my guests, that seems to be working. But until this morning, I had no idea how uncomfortable this could be for my guests, not having any idea what I'm going to pose at them. What changed this morning and why the sudden awakening is because I was on a podcast as a guest for probably just the second or third time in my life, but I haven't been on a podcast in about a year and a half, so I'd forgotten what it meant like. But most impactfully was the host never shared the questions with me. And the podcast was scheduled at 11 a.m. this morning. At 9 a.m., I was sweating buckets. I had an email all written up saying, are we still having the podcast? Because I haven't got any draft what we're going to talk about. And then I thought to myself, that's not right. I shouldn't be asking for anything because I never expect my guests to ask me. And if they do, I decline anyway. So I just braced myself, and come 11 a.m., I got on the Zencaster link, and it was the most wonderful 45-minute conversation. But what I realized is, yeah, we can talk all day long about walking in your customer's shoes, but until you actually do it, you have no idea what your customers feel. So again, hats off to all my podcast guests, because I know what you feel right now coming into a conversation and truly being yourself, because at that point, once the conversation starts, there is no second take, there is no post-processing. You are who you are. So once the podcast goes live, the one that I was a guest on today, I'm happy to share it. But I just want to share this small tidbit about what it meant to be walking in my customer's shoes. And I had that experience today. Thank you. Bye.